everyone. I'm Jim Longworth, and welcome to another edition of Triad Today. Coming up later on, our infamous roundtable convenes. We're going to say all sorts of controversial things, so stay tuned for that. Between now and then, some great guests, important information coming your way. For one thing, we're going to have a discussion about keeping your kids safe and healthy while they play sports. We'll also find out something about respite care for seniors, very important there. And Dave Briggs will be around to tell us what's going on and coming up at the High Point Theater, all that and much more. But first, we turn our attention to how we can reduce traffic accidents and traffic fatalities everywhere, but specifically we're going to have a conversation about how it affects the city of Greensboro. To do that, we have two very special guests. One who's been with us many times before, and we're glad she's always back. On my right, Ruth Hyde is Executive Director, Community Engagement, and many other things she does at Crumley Roberts Attorneys. And next to her, a good friend, Adam Fisher, is Transportation Director for the city of Greensboro. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Great
Adam,
to be here.
let's just start out with a quickie here, just sort of give us some perspective. How prevalent are traffic accidents and traffic fatalities in the city of Greensboro?
Last year, unfortunately, we had 42 fatalities, which was an all-time high for the city of Greensboro. So we're starting to see an uptick.
What does that mean, thousands and thousands of crashes? And
There's about 11,000 crashes that we have each year in the city of Greensboro, but like I said, unfortunately...
And we're not even talking about the serious injuries. We're just talking about you had 42. Good grief.
About 65 serious injuries, and statewide that's about 1,300 fatal accidents, and then nationwide it's 33,000 people die in traffic accidents each year.
That's just scary. Now, your initiative is called Vision Zero Greensboro. What is that all about?
Vision Zero is really taking a serious look at what is causing these accidents. We've had a long-time safety program at the city of Greensboro where we look at areas that may be having frequent accident problems and issues and take measures such as installing medians or adjusting traffic signals. At one point in time, we had a red light camera program to try to reduce those accidents. But because of this uptick that we've experienced and really following along what is becoming a new trend in the United States, because we are starting, not just here in Greensboro, but everywhere across the United States, an uptick in fatal accidents, we determined to join the Vision Zero program, which is, like I said, it started...
and just try to make people more aware of what they need to do, like don't text and while you're driving and stuff like that. And you're hoping then you've got some kind of goal, I imagine. Look, I'm guessing that the zero means you want to cut these fatalities down to zero, right?
That is the long-term goal, is to get to zero fatalities.
Yeah. Ruth, how is Crumley Roberts involved with this?
Well, you know, a lot of our community outreach programs are based on education and prevention, from our bike safety to our Kids Zone events to our Education and Advancement Leadership Center. So we thought partnering up with Vision Zero Greensboro was a really natural fit for us because the messaging is around education, and this education of our community will prevent these accidents. And more importantly, a lot of our education is around elementary age school kids.
Right.
And we know that being in front of kids and giving them important messaging around this, they will be in the car with their parents saying, "Hey mom, put down your phone."
Absolutely. I think that's just, a lot of people overlook that, but kids are smart that way, and they'll say, "Hey, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that?" So you're excited about this campaign, even though it's about a serious, tragic topic. You're excited about it.
Yeah, I think Crumley Roberts, along with other corporate support and other folks within the community, we're going to make a big difference. And I'm excited to see these numbers drop, and I'm excited to see people slow down and be more present in an automobile.
Adam, we have a couple seconds left. Other than texting while driving, give me an example of something not to do maybe people can work on.
Speeding is an issue. Speeding, texting. And then even though we have 80% of the folks are wearing their seatbelts, unfortunately the ones that are not surviving accidents do not have on their seatbelts. And that means everybody in the car needs their seatbelt on, not just in the front seat.
I want to give a couple websites here. One is www.greensboro-nc.gov/Vision Zero. It's up on screen. Check that out. And crumleyroberts.com for all the great things those folks are doing too. Guys, I can't tell you how happy I am that you're doing this. I'm proud of you. And will you come back when you can update us?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, sure. We got to spread the word.
We'll be right back after this. On Triad Today, and so many of us have kids that are nephews or nieces that are involved in sports, especially outdoor sports, and we worry about them. We want to keep them safe and healthy. We have two experts with us give you some advice on how to do that. And next to us, a man you've seen here on the show many times before, Dr. Bill Satterwhite is Chief Health and Wellness Officer for Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center. Next to him is his special guest, Dr. Laura Littner, who, among other things, is Assistant Professor of Family and Community Medicine at Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you very much.
Laura, if Dr. Satterwhite, if you don't mind, I'm going to ignore you for a second. I want to go to can I call you Laura?
Yes, please.
What are some of the more common injuries we see in youth sports these days?
So we see concussions, fractures, but most commonly in kids we see what are called overuse injuries. And these are just from repetitive trauma over a significant period of time. Kids are still skeletally immature, and so they have growth centers in their bones that are a bit weaker, and these areas can get inflamed or stretched, and that's called apophysitis.
See, I didn't think about that. I didn't realize I'm ignorant about that because I thought, well, kids are more resilient, but you're saying kind of the opposite, that they're more fragile.
Yes, I mean, essentially their bones are.
Yeah.
So where an adult might get a tendinitis, a kid can get an overuse injury
That's
more in the
interesting.
bone.
While we got you here, Laura, what about some of the things that parents and kids both can do to prevent injuries that occur in youth sports?
Absolutely. So my first recommendation is to make sure that the child is wearing appropriate and proper fitting equipment for whatever sport they're participating in. And then we actually, to prevent these overuse injuries, recommend not specializing a child in one sport until after the age of 12.
Okay. Bill, it's still hot outside, and even if we were to rerun this, I mean, there are areas where kids get overheated and this kind of thing. How important is being hydrated?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's actually very important for kids, especially because they do not have well-developed sweat glands. So they don't sweat as easily until after puberty. So you know how as an adult or even an 18-year-old, you perspire everywhere.
I
Kids
met
don't
some
really
girls
do
when I
that.
was going through puberty, and I sweated a lot. I don't know what that means, but what are the signs of dehydration? Because I mean, now, seriously though, I mean, you're a doctor, so maybe you don't think about this, but as a layperson, how would I know if a kid's in trouble?
Yeah, I think the early things are people being very hot, very tired. It moves on toward being things like more confused, and then ultimately lethargic. And so it's pretty significant. Now, that shouldn't happen anymore. I mean, most of the time, most of the leagues are set to say we need rest breaks, we need water. The main point is that before puberty, kids need more of that.
Right.
That's really the main thing.
And Laura, if we see that there's a problem, and as Bill just described, what do you do immediately if you think that there's that problem with dehydration?
Yeah, concern about dehydration, you want to move the child into a shaded, cooled environment and try to replenish their fluids with water, sometimes even sports drink to help replenish their electrolytes, and sometimes kids are more compliant with that.
Yeah, not to give a commercial, we didn't rehearse this or anything, but Gatorade, since it's got some sugar to it, is that better than water in a situation in crisis, or what, I mean?
Not necessarily better, but also important along with water. Probably mostly for the sodium and potassium that's in those drinks.
Bill, the people are still talking a lot about the concussions on the youth level and the pro level, especially with football and other things. Why is it so important in your mind for parents and others to seek treatment immediately if they think there's concussion suspected?
Yeah, I'll start it off and then let Laura pick it up from there. I think concussions are way more common than everyone thought. And it's almost like getting a brain bruise. So you know how you could get a bruise of your muscle? It's a little bit that way. And so being able to recognize that and then figure out what to do to recover is actually really important.
You're nodding.
Yes, if a child's brain hasn't fully recovered and they're put back in a vulnerable position, perhaps sustain another hit, that could lead to severe symptoms that are possibly permanent and a significantly prolonged recovery.
Up on screen, wakehealth.edu/sports medicine. Please check that out. And also, Dr. Satterwhite wanted me to mention saveinjuredkids.org as a website for information. I hope you will do that. And Laura, I hope you'll come back sometime and visit us. Thank you for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Dr. Bill, thank you.
Yes, indeed.
All
My
right.
pleasure.
We'll be right back after this. Triad Today. So glad you could stay with us, and so glad you could be with us for this particular segment, because this lady's been with us before, and I'm just so glad you took time to be here. Angie Bailey is Area Director for Community Relations with Ridge Care. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Give me a 10-second thing like we did before, just in case people didn't see this before and they don't know a lot about Ridge Care. Maybe they moved into the area. What do you all do and what do you offer?
We are a group of assisted livings and independent livings in the community. We're actually in West Virginia, North Carolina.
Starting to
and
go down to the eastern part of the
Yes,
state too,
South
and you
Carolina
offer
as
what?
well.
Senior communities, assisted living. So
and
it's
memory care.
memory care too. Let's talk about something. You sent me an email one day and said you wanted to talk about respite care. And then you said in parentheses short-term care. I want explain to us, for the audience and for all of us, what do you mean by respite care?
I'm not really sure where the word respite came from, but exactly, a short-term stay. A lot of people don't know that whenever you need assistance short-term, that's something that's offered. It could be, a lot of people just don't realize that the service is available.
Yeah, you can have, all right, let me ask you, for instance then, because normally when somebody comes to one of your communities or any kind of retirement community, they're there and they stay there and they enjoy it. But let's say that you're 70 or 80 years old and you've had an accident and you need to get over this injury, or you had an illness you're trying to get over. Can you go in for a short-term stay through Ridge Care? Is that possible?
Yes, and sometimes it's an outpatient procedure that may not require rehabilitation. A surgery on your wrist or your back, and you're just not able to perform your daily care.
At home?
Right, so you need a little help, and we're able to get you back on your feet and get you back home.
Now, I'm putting you on the spot. We didn't rehearse this. What if I'm running a business and I've got to go out of town on business, or my wife and I need to get away for a couple of days on vacation? Usually I'm a caregiver for somebody, that the elderly person's at home living with us. That we're going to make a decision soon, and maybe talking to her about coming to you permanently as living in the community. But for a few days, we say, look, we're not going to be here. We can't find any family members. Is that a situation where you guys can help too, or am I?
Definitely, and this summer we've done a lot of that. Coming into the fall, there's going to be weddings, a lot of mission trips, and we offer that service.
So if mom or dad is depending on me at home to take care of them and do certain things for them, and then at least for a few days, I know I'm peace of mind that you guys are going to help out.
Exactly, and we treat them just like our permanent residents. We provide them all the same services. So, to be able to make that transition and to know that your loved one's safe while you're out of town.
Absolutely. Do you have a minimum stay? Do I say something like, Angie, we're going to be out of town for 3 days, and you say, well, I'm sorry, it's got to be 2 weeks, or what?
Well, in independent living, 3 days would be okay. In assisted living, we typically like 7, just because the process is a little complicated, and that way we're able to get to know the resident a little better, and we're familiar with their care needs.
You don't have to go through the whole process, but I'm just wondering, is it complicated? Is it difficult to go through the process? Do I just pick up the phone? Do I sign something that say, I'd like to bring my mother over for 3 days or whatever? How do you do this?
Call, check on availability, come in, take a look around. We would need to do an assessment to make sure that we can provide the care needed. And then there's some documentation required from the primary doctor that we could help obtain.
Now, tell me if I'm wrong, but I've heard too that sometimes somebody will, a loved one will go into for a few days stay like this, a respite care, and then they'll come back and say, I didn't realize the place was that, was great. They take care of you, the food's great, whatever. And then does that ever lead to maybe shortly after that making a decision that might have been hard to make otherwise about making a transition permanently?
I'll give you one example. Recently, we had a family that was going on a 2.5-week mission trip. They brought mom over. They were so nervous. They thought she was going to be mad. They were more nervous than she was. She got there. She started getting involved in activities. She said for the first time in 4 years, she ate a meal with other people. She wasn't eating by herself.
Wow.
Sitting out on the front porch, doing things that create quality of life. So the last week she was there, she was like, I think I want to stay.
Wow.
And so
That's
she
pretty
did.
Neat. That's pretty neat. Well, I appreciate all you do. Up on screen, I want to make sure people check this out too, ridgecare.com. As Angie said, go to the website, check it out, give them a call. The phone number's on there. The respite care program is a great program, and it's a good introduction to how senior living can be as well. Thanks, Angie.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after this. On Triad Today, I always like it when this gentleman can stop by because he always has such great information about what's going on in the arts, and specifically as it applies to High Point Theater and surrounding environs. And here he is again, Dave Briggs, Director, High Point Theater. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you, Jim. Always a pleasure to be here.
Would you mind if I ask you a few dumb questions before we get into what's coming up at the
As
theater?
long as it has nothing to do with my pant size.
Your pants size? No, we're not going to ask suit size or anything like that. Okay, seriously. I've heard you say before, and it's a good value to buy season tickets. Well, most anywhere you'll say that, but especially at High Point Theater. But I've never pinned you down. Do you save money doing that rather than saying, well, I think I want to go to this show, and this show? Well, I'll buy season tickets.
Well, that's right. Well, season tickets for us mean that you've purchased at least 4 different shows. And so once you buy a 4 event package, you become a subscriber. And by doing so, you save about $5 per ticket.
Wow.
For
Okay.
that. So if you're buying 4 shows, you've saved $20. If you're buying, 2 tickets each, then you've saved $40.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but when I've been over there at things, I pulled in and the parking was great.
Yeah.
Now, was that just a happenstance, or is there a fee for parking in other areas, or what?
It was not a fluke. There is no paid parking in High Point unless you choose to park in a parking deck. So for the High Point Theater, for instance, we're in the giant IHFC building. Directly across from our front doors is the Showplace building.
Right.
That parking lot is free. Just down the street, past Hamilton Street on Commerce, there's something called the New Classic Building. Right. Behind the New Classic Building is free parking also.
Free parking too.
And there's about 300, it may not be quite that large, 300 parking spaces there.
Yeah.
All of the on-street parking is free. We have an officer out front, so if you're handicapped or have mobility issues, you can park right in front of the theater, or we'll put you in the terminal so that you don't have nearly as far to go. So parking is really never an issue for us.
Yeah. One other quick thing, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but if the show lets out and somebody says, hey, I'm hungry, I want to get something to, a soft drink or something like that. I know you have refreshments inside, but afterwards you say, we want to get something to eat. Are there places open in the area?
There are. They're a little bit farther away than right downtown, and we're working on trying to get that fixed. But Penny Path there's a crepe shop downtown.
Oh yeah.
Bistro 135, which is the restaurant that's now at the Red Lion. It used to be the Radisson.
Right.
Really like Giano's. They've been a food sponsor for us.
And now they've got
times.
a plug on the
Great
TV
Italian.
show.
There you go. And the same thing with Claudia, which is a great little Irish bar and pub. And then Jimmy's Pizza is always a favorite.
That's great. Well, now I don't want to be remiss because I know there's a couple things we want to mention. One is Sauce Boss.
Sauce Boss. This guy he plays Delta blues and rock. Sometimes it's a one-man band, sometimes it's a trio. But what's really cool about Bill Wharton is that all the while he's singing, he's also making a giant pot of gumbo on stage. And that's why he is the Sauce Boss. And so after the show, everybody gets a little bowl of gumbo. Really? Which is really cool. And
that's neat.
We're working with the Greater High Point Food Bank with this show. So folks we're going to make a donation to the Greater High Point Food Bank because he is the Sauce Boss.
Absolutely. Now, what about Tannehill Weavers?
Tannehill Weavers are easily the best Scottish band around. They've been doing this for 50 years. They're celebrating, I think, their 31st year of touring to the United States.
Right.
These guys are remarkable. They're world-class pipers and players and guitarists, and they're just great harmonies. And I mean, this ain't your mama's Scottish band just singing Danny Boy.
Right.
Okay, these folks play the real traditional Scottish music.
That's really neat.
And it's really upbeat, and it's just a lot of fun.
Any other big shows or anything you want to give a quick plug to?
Yeah, I'd be remiss, I think, if I didn't mention the fact that we've got Manhattan Transfer coming this year, and Peter Noon from Herman's Hermits doing a Christmas show. John Barry's going to be doing a Christmas show with us this year. In the Irish mode, we've got Rhythm of the Dance coming in the springtime. Oh, Hal Linden and Barbara Eden are going to be with us doing love letters this year.
That's next year.
That's next year. That's in
I'm already getting ready for that.
Oh, it's going to be a lot of fun.
On screen is the website, www.highpointtheater. Now, there's 2 T's in there, High Point Theater, highpointtheater.com. Check that out. Box office is 887-3001. And get those season tickets and free parking and all that great stuff. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Dave. We'll be right back after this. Back now on Triad Today, in time for the roundtable. On my right, but always the political left and troublemaker, award-winning broadcaster, journalist, Ogie. Over next to him is Sheriff B.J. Barnes of Guilford County. B.J. Barnes, who is pretty much in control of the world. Next to him is Keith Granberry, founder of Helping Hands Consultants, doing a lot of good work in getting people registered to vote nationwide. I want to give another plug in for The Making of a Sheriff. It's B.J. Barnes' book. It's a story of his history of being a sheriff and everything. Now, where do you get this?
www.keithbjbarnes.com.
Check that out. Ogie, you may not know this. There's a whole chapter devoted to BJ and Keith going on summer vacation with Donald Trump. Did you know that?
I knew that, yeah.
I can't believe you just said that.
Now to the
That
first topic. Serious. TSA is considering putting an end to security screenings at small and medium-sized airports like PTI, guys. Are you okay with that? Or would you now have security concerns, Ogie?
I am so okay with that. I've been okay since it was instituted. It was not necessary in the first place, and I'm glad it's gone.
BJ.
I am so against that. I mean, those small airports go into larger airports, and I don't care how small the plane is, if you drive it into something, it's going to hurt somebody.
Yeah. Keith.
You mean no security at all?
Well, none of the checkpoints and take your boots off and look at all this stuff.
I'm against that. I mean, in this day and time, and I have to agree with the sheriff, that we need security, and those will be the places that are targeted most of the time.
Right.
I'm against it.
President Trump wants to give aid to farmers who are being hurt by his tariff war. Now, some of the farmers are for it, some are against it. Here's my question. Are you guys okay with so-called farm welfare? And if we do give financial aid to farmers, should it only go to small family farms, not the giant corporate farms? Thoughts, Ogie?
All right, let me get this straight. He imposes the tariff that creates the fact that they can't sell the product.
That's right.
So then he bails them out with $12 billion.
Right.
And says, I fixed it.
Yeah.
No problem, I
Yeah.
fixed it.
Yeah.
And it would go to the big agribusiness
Not to the
farmers
little
anyway.
guys.
The little guy gets nothing.
Sheriff.
So not be as dramatic as Ogie is on this. They have given car aid to auto dealerships, farm aid. What's the problem with that?
Okay, Keith.
I think he needs to give aid to farmers. I also think he needs to give aid to people who are unemployed. I think he needs to give aid to some of these folks who he's taking aid from in the urban areas. That's
Yeah.
what I think.
Good point. Speaking of Mr. Trump, a new poll says if he ran against former Vice President Joe Biden today, Biden would win by 7 points. Guys, if those poll numbers would hold up through, say, next year, will Trump drop out of the 2020 race rather than face defeat? Ogie.
Not a chance. I don't think he will, when he gets beat in 2020, I think he'll have to be dragged out of the White House kicking and screaming.
'Cause he'll say he won.
He'll say it was rigged.
He'll say he
something
won.
that was LeBron James rigged it or something.
Yeah.
Let's hope so. The polls said he wouldn't win the Republican primaries. The polls said he wouldn't win the election. I don't think he pays attention to polls.
Right. Keith.
I think he pays very close attention to the polls. And the one, Rasmussen, which is never right, he pays attention to that a lot. Number one, he's not going to drop out, but Joe Biden would have beat him this time. Next time, it's going to be a very close race. There are a lot of people supporting him that aren't even talking about it. Absolutely.
Supporting Trump.
Yes.
Quiet Trump supporters.
Quiet Trump supporters.
All right. Meanwhile, Reverend Franklin Graham, is selling pro-Trump T-shirts at the Billy Graham Library in Charlotte for $15.99 each. Are you guys okay with tax-exempt religious organizations profiting from the sale of political merchandise? Ogie Overman.
No, in no way am I okay with that. That's a clear violation of church and state. I mean, I'm surprised he hadn't been yanked already as tax-exempt status.
Sheriff.
Welcome back, Ogie. You and I just don't agree.
I know.
No, I have no problem with the churches selling and making money off
And it
of it.
did
It
say
goes to the
pray. It
church.
said pray for 45. It was
Yeah.
like a spiritual thing. Let's
Yeah.
pray for our president.
Yeah, exactly.
Keith.
I have a big problem with that. I mean, what does it say about church, separation of church and state? Why do we continue to do this? And they're having meetings now to really get church and state to intermingle because that is a political plus for him.
Right.
So it needs to be separate. No way.
Now, this is a wild story. The North Carolina DMV has denied a Greenville woman who happens to be a lesbian the right to have a personalized license plate that honors her late deceased wife. The DMV says it can refuse to issue a plate if the language is offensive to some people, but the license plate simply had initials that stood for lesbians in love. Quickly, guys, is DMV being homophobic or just prudent? Ogie.
I could be wrong, Jim, but even though I'm never wrong, BJ.
Yeah.
I thought they had rescinded that. I think they realized that they were being homophobic and there was
And
going to
they're
be a
gonna give it to her.
backlash, and I think they said they were going ahead.
Their
this year.
initial policy, right or wrong?
It's wrong. It's wrong. They shouldn't be doing it.
Keith.
Dead wrong.
Last week, the local Boy Scout Council, Old North State, began signing up girls in accordance with the new BSA rules. This will let the young girls be Cub Scouts. The older girls will join in February. Are you guys okay with girls joining the Cub Scouts? And how do you think it's going to go, Ogie?
Well, I thought I'm mystified by it, but I tell you, I saw the first little girl on
Ruthie,
TV,
yeah.
and sweetest little thing. And it turns out her grandfather was one of the iconic figures in the history of scouting. So
make a
I
good
guess it's okay.
Oldest eagle around.
Yeah,
That's who
yeah.
it
BJ.
was. She was as cute as she could be. I have no problem with Cub Scouts because Cubs, like bear cubs, can
Yeah.
be male or female.
Keith.
I have a problem with it. Girl Scouts are for girls, Boy Scouts are for boys.
All right.
Won't they have intramural? I mean, what is going on? Why can't we have some separation?
I don't know. My wife
Girl
wants to
Scout.
separate.
How you going to go camping? Little boys going camping with
Finally,
girls?
finally,
Crazy.
guys, a 25-year-old Los Angeles woman loves giraffes so much she's been stretching her neck for 5 years to look like one. Guys, if you could look like an animal quickly, which animal would you want to look like? Ogie.
I can honestly say I've never given this question 1 second of thought.
BJ.
Sam Elliott. My wife says he's an animal and he ages well.
You want to look like Sam Elliott? Keith, what do you want to look like?
What do I want to look like?
Yeah.
A beautiful swan.
A swan. All right. Well, I think the three of you are, something's wrong with all three of you, I think, basically. That's all the time we have, except for this. For weeks now, a Winston-Salem man has noticed that his next-door neighbor's newspapers have been ending up in his yard. A night camera now reveals that a wild fox has been stealing the newspapers and hoarding them. It's just something else we can blame on Fox News. For all of us here on Triad Today, I'm Jim Warner. We'll see you.